This is a Willets Point Shea Stadium bound 7 express train. The next and last stop is Willets Point, Shea Stadium.
Oh, yes, it is the Subway to Shea podcast. Anthony Rivera here with you, talking about all the news and happenings surrounding that team from Queens, the New York Mets. It's episode 208 from the Subway to Shea studios in my office. You can follow Subway to Shea on X, Instagram, and TikTok at Subway to Shea. You can follow me at Ant Rivera 86, and make sure you're subscribing on Apple Podcasts and Spotify if you prefer to listen. But if you want to be a part of the show, you want to be a part of the chat, you got to do it on YouTube. And we just got over 1,000 subscribers. So let's keep this thing rolling. Get in the chat, get live, and like the video, share it with your friends and family who are Met fans or baseball fans, and join in on the fun. You can also support the Subway to Shea podcast with super chats, super stickers, super thanks, which are now available on YouTube. So make sure you do that. We'll get your comments out there immediately. Second half preview. I like to consider this the halfway point. I know they already went through the 81 games. We got another 81 going through a little bit earlier on in the season, but this is kind of the unofficial halfway point for me as we hit the All-Star break. Shout out to all those that are in the chat. We already got 22 people in here. Brad, how you doing, my friend? Top Bunk Sports in the house. Make sure you're following him as well as the 7 Express podcast. Armand in here as well. G Money Stacks. Appreciate every one of you. And I got to bring on my guest. You know, I started the season with my good friend, Justin Fensty Fensterman, and he is back. We did a little season preview. We did a little betting preview as well. We're going to see how we're doing so far, halfway into the season with some of the bets that we looked at here. So, Fensty, it's great to have you back here halfway through. We'll probably have to do another one at the end of the season as well.
Absolutely, man. Absolutely. And what a season it's been. That's for sure. Some ups, some downs, some major disappointments for, let's just say, a certain Francisco Alvarez, who now for the last 2 years, when joining you, I've been hyped about, and it just hasn't worked out. But Anthony, it's great being with you again. Thank you so much for having me.
It's always a pleasure. And that's just baseball, right? Like, that's how the cookie crumbles when it comes to baseball here. The Mets 55-42 with everything that has gone on this season. Injuries to the pitching staff, struggles in the bullpen, an offense that cannot hit with runners in scoring position. They are still 13 games above 500, only a half game behind the Philadelphia Phillies for the NL East lead, and 2.5 games up in the wild card. You look at them at home, they're one of the best teams at home, 33-14. On the road, they've struggled all season, 22-28. And I like this with against teams above 500. 25-19. Those are good stats there, because you want to see this team take care of business against some of the elite teams that possibly they could see somewhere down the line in the postseason. Their problem has been struggling against teams like the Baltimore Orioles, who have been awful this year, Pittsburgh Pirates, all the teams that have had tough seasons, they struggle with. And that's been something that's gone on for years. I want to get to the hitting. Let's start off with them. You look at this hitting, and I got the stats here. 244 batting average. They're 20th in the league. They have 124 home runs this season. That's 8th in the league. 416 RBIs, which is best for 13th. They have 334 walks, with their 5th in. 74 stolen bases, 11th, and a 738 OPS, which puts them at 8th. But the big problem with this team, they can get on base, they can get the hits. They just don't hit with runners in scoring position, Fensty.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's been something that's just been so annoying about them. The good thing about the Mets, and it's something you talk about, comebacks, and that's something that we've seen them do. This team just doesn't go away. And we've seen this now for the last year and a half. But the problem is when they put themselves in opportunities, often with 0 outs, it's not a lock that you're going to get 1 or 2 runs or anything like that, like you might have thought years ago. Now, when it comes to this team, you don't know if they're going to score. It's almost like a tease, Anthony, when they get first and second with nobody out, and then they can't capitalize on that. And here's the thing, man. It's unfortunate to be in this spot from the pitching standpoint, because the pitching, despite the injuries, despite the questions going into the season, despite the fact that we talked about how they probably need another arm if they're in the thick of it, which they absolutely are, and they do, their pitching's been holding up to the point. It's the power that we expected all year throughout that we saw kind of die out a little bit about a month ago. That's been the problem with this team, man, and it's just been very frustrating. I'm sure very frustrating for the 7 Army as well.
Absolutely. And when we started in the offseason, I think it was like the end of, we did our little season preview. Our biggest concern was the pitching staff. Yes, they had the depth. Yes, they had the arms to do it. But we were concerned if Clay Holmes was going to be able to transition to being a starting pitcher, if Sean Manaea was going to be able to stay healthy, if Kodai Senga was going to be able to stay healthy, and the additions of Griffin Canning, what would he bring to the team after being one of the worst pitchers in the league the previous year? And you look at their stats, 3.56 ERA, 4th best in the National League. It would be a whole lot better if they didn't have that troubling June that they had 28 saves, tied for 4th, and 827 strikeouts, tied for 9th. There's a little bit of a divide with Met fans when it comes to how David Stearns puts together this roster. And the fact that he did not go after an ace type pitcher or bring in a star type pitcher and went for more of 2s and 3s, and you know, some reclamation projects. You want to throw Frankie Montas in there as well, that, you know, that was not going to work out. And the stats are there. They're one of the best pitching staffs in the league. Do you give credit to David Stearns for doing that? Or is it more like, you know what, maybe he should have went for one of the top line starters to help this team out?
No, I think it was very ballsy, but you can see what David Stearns is doing. He's going against the grain a little bit. And sometimes you have to do that, and sometimes it does provide better results. I didn't expect these types of results. If you asked me a few months ago if I thought that this pitching staff as a whole would allow the fewest home runs in the major leagues, I wouldn't have thought that. I would have thought you were crazy, especially looking at this rotation on paper. But I'm sure he had it in his mind, as we talked about, the Mets were going to have to be thinking they were going to be competitive, which this year we both did. Last year, I felt like you did, and I didn't think that they were going to be competitive by the end of the season. You were very right about that. This year, we were both in lockstep and thinking that they were going to have to be active at the deadline. And Anthony, I'm sure Stearns was just sitting there being like, instead of just spending and spending, you're coming off situations like Soto and especially Alonso as well. Let's wait and see how it all comes together and then hit the trade market hard, which, you know, Anthony, in other sports, there are some years where the deadline is very thick with top end talent and then other years where it's completely dead. I feel like, and you can tell me if you feel this way, I feel like in baseball, of all sports, there is always a bull market because all of a sudden top-end talent, not top-end, maybe B-listers become readily available, especially in the final few days before the deadline passes every year these years.
Yeah, I do think that there's a change going on because of the new format with the postseason, because you can only make trades at the deadline. Remember, in years past, you could still go up to, I think it was like October 31st, where you could make even the tiniest smidgen of moves. But now with all these teams still alive, there's not that much moves to be made when it comes to, you know, big time players. Maybe you see one or two, right? Like we already saw Rafael Devers move to San Francisco. That's probably...
Yeah, right. Yeah. Didn't that land right in the Giants' lap? And it sucks for the Mets because that's big-time competition right there that reignites there when going for the wild card spots.
Yeah.
So that really, really stinks. And it was bummer being a Met fan and seeing Devers literally fall in the laps of the San Francisco Giants.
Yeah, and when you look at the Mets, and when it comes, we'll get to both pitching and hitting, and we'll get to the trade deadline. This pitching, how it's been able to hold up the starters here. You know, Griffin Canning got out to a hot start, went 7-3, 3.77 ERA. And, you know, then he had the freak injury where now he is out for the entire season. Kodai Senga, he's had his bit of injuries, but he's been the best pitcher. If he was to stay healthy, I mean, he'd be one of the best pitchers and definitely one of the best acquisitions the Mets have made. 7-3, 1.39 ERA. If he can only just stay healthy for this team. I know that the last injury, thanks to a little bit of a Pete Alonso yips, cost him a month here, but he has been good. Clay Holmes has been outstanding considering his change from being a reliever to now being a starter. 8-4, a 3.31 ERA. He leads the team in wins. And then you have to look at David Peterson, all-star David Peterson. Congratulations on that. 6-4, 3.06 ERA. Best ERA, second best ERA in the starting staff. And ever since he had that hip surgery last season, he has been probably one of the best pitchers, not only for the New York Mets, but in baseball in general.
He wants to be out there. That's the big thing. It's something that we don't see often anymore. And Anthony, I'll tell you this, and I know we're going to be going down memory lane and stuff like that, but, I was at the game back in 2009 when Randy Johnson won his 300th game. I mean, are we ever going to see another starting pitcher win 300 games? Probably not in this day and age of baseball. David Peterson wants the ball. You asked before, do you go out there in the offseason and get top-end talent? I mean, a lot of times if you have the opportunity, you would. But part of being top-end talent outside of what you see on the stat sheet, the pitcher wanting to be out there, the pitcher wanting to be in big spots. David Peterson never wants to leave the mound no matter what the situation is. That's the kind of pitcher I want on my baseball team. Everything, all the flowers, the recognition he's gotten this year, fully deserved.
What he has done, and it's kind of been just amazing to see his maturation from what was probably a 3-4-5 type starter to now possibly, if this continues, and he's pitching as well as he has, you're looking at a number 2, possibly could be an ace of a staff. He's going to get some money once he hits free agency, whenever that is. And hopefully the Mets can keep him at a good rate. You want to keep these homegrown pitchers and these homegrown talents that can pitch in New York. And he's been one of those guys to do that. And the rotation has just been a success just because of that. You have Tyler McGill. He was 5-5, 3.95 ERA. He's on the 60-day IL with an injury himself. Also, Paul Blackburn has been injured all season. He hasn't been good. We've seen, Blake Tidwell made a start. Justin Hageman has made starts. Frankie Montas has looked, somewhat decent in his first 4 starts. He had that one hiccup against Pittsburgh, but since then, he's been looking good himself. And it's just been a kind of carousel of pitchers to come up here. You look at Austin Warren has gotten in there. Thankfully, we got to see Sean Manaea, and outside of that loss, and I think someone had posted in here about, I think it was Armand, should the Mets pair one of the young starters with Clay Holmes since Holmes has exceeding his innings? I think we're going to start seeing something like that. At the very least, we saw it on Sunday. We saw it on Sunday with Clay Holmes and Sean Manaea returning. I know the Mets lost that game, but the biggest positive to me was the fact that we got 4 to 5 innings out of Sean Manaea, and he looked pretty good. 7 strikeouts from him. Clay Holmes still looks good through 5 innings. I think you have to now set the limit for Clay Holmes. All right, Clay, you're going 5 innings. That's it, and we're going to take you out and just end it like that. It just gives everyone, at least in the bullpen, they know that they're going to have to come in, or another starter, as Armand's saying, maybe another starter comes in and gets a bulk of an innings, and you work it that way. But to have Clay Holmes go 6-7 innings, I just don't see it happening.
No, because we're not used to seeing him already over 100 innings this year. Hasn't sniffed that throughout his career. I believe his highest is about 70. I think that's it, 70 at this point. And Anthony, what do you think? Do you think at this point they're going to try to, I don't want to say cap him, because the problem is if they didn't go through the issues they went through starting in the middle of June and they had themselves a nice cushion, then maybe you could start skipping him in the rotation. But the Mets don't have that luxury anymore. They're in a big time battle for the division and wild card. So you're not going to be able to really skip him. But yeah, you're going to have to limit him. And when I think back to these situations, and now that we're in this era of openers, especially, I think about former Mets like Darren Oliver, who were just there to go out there and pitch 3 innings if he had to. the Mets need, and every team, it seems like, because there are a lot of games where you're seeing bullpens just get completely exhausted multiple nights in a row. You need some of those pitchers that, yeah, you might not bring them in to close out the game, but whether you're down 4 runs, you're up 4 runs, or you're in a situation where you need an opener, or like the Mets have with Clay Holmes transitioning to being a starter, not used to going a zillion innings, a Darren Oliver type is so vital to this pitching staff.
Yeah. And you just don't want to completely shut down Clay Holmes, because then, that leads to injuries and stuff that you don't want. Look, it worked well when they had Trevor Williams, who was a starter, and they made him into, one of those long relievers, openers. They could do the same thing with Clay Holmes the rest of the year if that's what they decide. But, that'll probably be determined on what happens at the trade deadline later on in the month. So we'll see, how that all shapes up. I'm going to go to the bullpen next, and, it's a tale of 2 bullpens, right? It started off very well for this team, and then, you get overused because starters aren't going 5-6 innings. And then you have what happened last year where they stumble in June, and it was a tough go for guys like Reed Garrett, who got off to a hot start, Jose Butto, who's kind of come around now. You got both of them, 2.47 ERA for Butto, 2.87 for Garrett. The one that really has been disappointing to me has been Ryan Stanek. He's got a 4.55 ERA. I really thought that he was going to take off after he did in the postseason. I know once he came here, he struggled, but I really thought after a stellar postseason helping out Edwin Diaz that he would have really had a full season to get acclimated to New York. And he has really struggled in big spots. I know he's had his moments, but he's also had a lot of bad moments. Also Huascar Brazaban, has been a little bit surprising as well. He's 5-2 with 3.99 ERA. He got out to a really hot start along with Reed Garrett. And then once you overuse him, that's been pretty much it. A lot of loss that we've had to the bullpen as well. Been, I think Rosie K said it, Armand said it. There's been a couple, G-Money Stacks said it as well. We miss AJ Minter. Danny Young also injured, both out for the season within a week. Both of those guys. How Mets had to be for those 2 guys to get hurt and be out. Both lefties. I always like to have 2 lefties in the Mets bullpen, and both of them got hurt. They added, I think it was Jose Castillo for a while. He didn't work out. Genesis Cabrera, Richard Lovelady. I mean, the list goes on and on of lefties. But thankfully, as G-Money Stacks has put it, we may see Brooks Raley sooner than you think. And he has been stellar in the minor leagues. And then, did I say Max Kranick already? He's out for Tommy John. I think I might have said that. He's out for Tommy John. And there's somebody else that Daniel Nunez. We lost him as well for the entire season. So 2 big pieces that we thought were going to be very important to this bullpen are now out with Tommy John surgery. And then, the coup de grace of this bullpen, Edwin Diaz has been Edwin Diaz, 2022 Edwin Diaz, 1.66 ERA. He's got 19 saves on the season. I think he has 55 strikeouts in 38 innings pitched. He has been outstanding. But the whole thing is, if you're not going to have guys that give you length in the rotation, you have to figure out at least 6 to 9 outs of getting to Edwin Diaz. And the Mets have had a little bit of trouble doing that.
No, they definitely had. And let's talk about Stanek a little bit, because if you look at his last appearances, the last one against the Orioles, and we talked about it. The Orioles do have power in their lineup. I just want to say that. But he's walking guys. So he's doing it to himself at this point. So I don't want to fully discredit Baltimore despite the season that they're having. But then you look at other teams that he's recently had a battle. The Yankees, the Brewers, the Phillies, the Braves, and even the Rays that kind of they're kind of like cockroaches. They don't go away no matter how much you try to put them down. That's a hard grouping of matchups for him right there. And it's not like, at least charged to him, he's allowing a ton of run production. Yes, in his last 2 he has. But really, you go to that Baltimore game and it's the walks. And the one thing that I'm noticing every few games, he just doesn't make it look easy anymore. Kind of Edwin Diaz, 2024 like there, where all of a sudden that pitch count just flies up after it seems like we're in cruise control in the inning. So I want to say, let's keep the faith with him. Let's be a little bit patient. because he's not giving up a ton of runs. When it happens 2 starts in a row, it's a bitter pill to swallow. Mets fans have always struggled, especially in postseason time, with unfortunate relief pitching performances that cost them games. But this is why they should go out there and try to go for a bottom feeder that has a decent arm in that bullpen and try to shore up that bullpen.
And I think they will. I think they will get someone for the bullpen, at least 1 or 2 bullpen arms, and you're going to need it. You need the reinforcements. If you're not going to be taking from the minor leagues and, I don't know, bringing in some of these starters to maybe give you some relief or something like that. I know we saw, who was it that came up from the minor leagues recently for them. His name, they had Jonathan Pinataro, a young kid, come up. Alex Carrillo, who's with the team right now, and he's pitched okay. So they're going to have to make a move for an impact reliever. I don't know if it's going to be the best reliever. We'll get into some of the possible options that are available later.
I've got one name we could talk about.
There's even a name in free agency that's been talked about this week that that the Mets could possibly reach out to. As we transition to the offense here, and I want to get your thoughts on this offense. We already talked about how they struggled with runners in scoring position. And the first month of the season, the first 2 months of the season, and we talked about this, you and me, just in our private little chat. Pete Alonso, man, basically carried this offense. He's batting .280 right now, but he's got 77 RBIs, 21 home runs. He's 5 away from tying Darryl Strawberry for the franchise record, and 6 away from taking the lead from and making himself a what I would assume is an immortal Met. Pete Alonso has been outstanding this season after signing that 2-year deal, which I'm pretty sure he's going to opt out of at the end of the season. He has been probably one of the best offensive, and on top of that, he has been the one that's been hitting with the runners in scoring position, which he struggled last season.
He's got over 100 hits, and it's almost disappointing to talk about because, look, I know I'm a little bit negative, and that's because we all love Pete Alonso very much. And even if Pete Alonso, or as I would say, when Pete Alonso goes to another team, we're all still going to love him. We're not going to view him as a traitor or anything like that. Sports has business to it. But this is exactly what the seeds are being planted right now for the Boris revenge, Anthony. That's what it is right now. He's having an incredible season. It's great. And thank God they have him back. I mean, big reason they're in this position that they're in now, even coming off a month of struggles overall, is because of him. So this year, we're going to ride it out here. But, man, this offseason is going to be tough for the Mets to try to keep this guy around. And Steve Cohen's going to have to make a choice here, Anthony. And I don't know if what you've thought of here, because can you defer money 50 years from now and just pay the man? I mean, you got to think, like you're saying, that Alonso is going to be getting a mega deal after this.
I always say, if the player can play in New York, you got to keep him.
Yeah.
And Pete Alonso has proven that. Yes, he had the bad season last year, which, he still hit 30 home runs and still had 80 RBIs. Yes, he didn't hit with runners in scoring position. He struggled. But I don't know if the contract was a big part of it. If Scott Boras was in his ear, he did not seem like himself, whether on the field or off the field. He seems like he's back to being the good old Pete Alonso that we know and love. And if you thought that this past offseason, David Stearns and Steve Cohen heard it from the Mets fans about bringing back Pete Alonso, they're going to hear it tenfold this offseason. So David Stearns has a lot to think about, as well as Steve Cohen. And there's not much that they can say probably to sway the Met fans into thinking that, hey, you know what? Let's think about putting Mark Vientos at first base. Not now. not after what we've seen this season. And I like this comment from Carlos Ramos being a little bit sarcastic. I always said the Mets should bring back Pete. He's being sarcastic because we all know that he had different opinions at the beginning. He made me eat crow, and I'm loving the buffet.
Yeah, I mean, look, at the end of the day, it's, for me, before that hit against Devin Williams in Milwaukee, this shirt right here, I had it in my hand. I was about to walk it to the garbage. I literally, Anthony, had this shirt in my hand because I just knew it was over. The Mets, coming off last season up to that point, the contract he was going to command, I always pictured him going to Toronto. I always just pictured him going there at the end of the day after last year. And then that magic happened. And then that amazing adrenaline-infused playoff run happened too. And it almost makes us sad. We don't want to be right regarding Pete Alonso, but this is where we want to think of as fans, of course, Pete will want to be here forever. No, business is business. And at the end of the day, when you have Scott Boras as your agent, and this is the super agent, this is the guy, he's going to get his clients paid, whether it's at their favorite place or somewhere else, because with all of these options now you see in contracts, Anthony, even though you're seeing 10-year deals, you're not seeing these players. The Soto deal, you're going to think that at some point, if the Mets, even whether it's halfway or whether if it's 3 years left on the deal, they're going to start looking at options potentially too, because there are just so many player and options that are involved in these moves now. So I'm not surprised. I know that at the end of the day, we all want Pete Alonso here, but it'll hurt less if we accept the fact there's a business aspect of this that goes above and beyond our fandom. We all want him back.
Yeah, absolutely. And shout out to Carlos. Shout out. We are over 100 people in this this live stream right now in this room, in the chat. Game for War joining us. We got Rosie K in here as well. I already mentioned Carlos in here. Nelson Cruz, Daniel Cap, Stanley Babbage. Appreciate every single one of you for tuning in and being a part of the Subway to Shea podcast.
Pete Alonso, Anthony, more impactful Met than Jose Reyes.
I think I'm going to say yes on that.
It's close to me, man. I was thinking about that. We were talking a little bit on the side. I started thinking in our lifetimes, like who the best Mets were of, let's say, 1990 to present.
I think Pete Alonso definitely is going to be top 10 all-time Met for sure.
Yeah.
And, the more you think about it, he breaks this record here. He's been in plenty of all-star appearances. He's had success in the postseason when the option has come up there. Jose Reyes really did not, outside of that one postseason appearance, and he wasn't really great in it. I don't even think he made the All-Star game that many times, but I do feel like Pete Alonso will be, we're going to have to say definitely in hitting, definitely top 5 with David Wright, with Darryl Strawberry, Mike Piazza, maybe Pete Alonso's 4 at the moment, right? Am I missing anyone?
No, I'm trying to think. I mean, all-time Mets, 1990. No.
Offensively. Because then you throw pitchers in there and you got Seaver and you got Gooden. And
the problem is, though, it's like you can't, and when we're talking about this stuff, you can't really judge players based on their whole careers and outside of the Mets. Like Carlos Delgado, I think, is one of the best hitters that we've seen in our 35 plus years of existence or whatnot. But he was only on the Mets for 4 years, and that's it. He did most of his work with the Jays.
Yeah. No, yeah. And he had a couple of good seasons. Very underrated just player in general that probably should be in the Hall of Fame. I don't know why he's not, but he did have a nice little run.
Like Willie Mays was with the Mets 1 year, and that's it. But you don't count Willie Mays in this list because of what he did with the Giants.
No. It's a totally different scenario. And shout out G Money Stacks. Make sure you like and subscribe. Make sure you're doing that for Subway to Shea as well. And Carlos Ramos is saying, what's up to my favorite duo, Ann and Justin? The last time you all together episode was for the record books. We're trying to break records here. That's what me and Fensty do. Me and Fensty go way back. That's why the dynamic is great, because me and Fensty go way back to when I was helping produce a great show called The Playbook.
No, we had a great time doing that. And we always talked about, and it was you, me, and Adam Ronis there, the always suffering Mets fans, but the real true Mets fans that despite knowing that we all like to live in a fantasy land, it's just at the same time, we're all in this together. And it's just great to see what they did last year. And now we're seeing, it's always great when you see both the Mets and the Yankees on more of an even playing field that we're seeing right now, because the Mets have had some good teams, but it's easy to be little brother to one of the most recognizable franchises in the history of sports.
And when both teams are at the same level, you get what we saw this season for the Subway Series. And what we witnessed as kids during the 99, 2000 run, 2006 run, when both teams are good, it makes for great baseball. I want to go to Francisco Lindor next. We'll get to Juan Soto, but Francisco Lindor batting .260, has 19 homers, 54 RBIs, 15 stolen bases on the season. He's gotten into slumps, but he did not get into a awful slump like he did at the beginning of last season. He's been a little bit more consistent this year, has had some clutch hits on the team as well. What is your assessment of what you've seen from Francisco Lindor this season?
Yeah, I mean, June was just a bad month, and when you look at why the Mets struggled, I mean, I'll say this, we're talking a lot about Pete Alonso and the impact he's made. We're talking, of course, you got to think about Juan Soto and what's gone on. Francisco Lindor is the backbone of this team. He sets the tone. To me, this team goes where Francisco Lindor takes them. And I think that he's the most important part of this lineup because of every little thing that he does on the base paths, at the plate, hitting at that top. And yeah, that stinks when he struggles. But now what we've started to see as the month turns leading into the All-Star break, we're starting to see him get it back a little bit, more hits. And that's fine. It's a long season, Anthony, and players are going to struggle. And that's where teams like the Mets, who have a very studded top half of the lineup, first half of the lineup, when one's struggling, the others have to pick it up. When Juan Soto is not getting off to the start that everyone wanted him to get off to, it's up to the Pete Alonsos of the world to make sure you're keeping that balance in the lineup. So he had a bad June. It was a bad June, but now he's kind of started to get out of it as we've entered July.
Yeah, and as Rosie K put it, he did suffer that foot injury. I'm pretty sure that affected him to a certain extent. He was able to play through it, but you could tell that he just was not the same at the plate.
Then why play through it? Especially in the early part of the season, if you have that much of an investment into the team, like I get what Rosie's saying, but if he's out there every single game, I'm sorry, but I have to deem him healthy because the medical staff is deeming him healthy. And if it's really that much of an impact for this important piece, you keep him out for a few weeks.
Well, I know he had his foot taped for a while as well. So I don't know if they had like cortisone shots and stuff like that they were putting in there. Maybe he's playing. I just don't know. But, he's had a better start to the season, I'll say, than he did last season, where I think he started off batting like 089 in April. He had a more balanced start to this season. We'll go to Brandon Nimmo next because he's the one that really got off to his tough start, and he's really picked it up. 18 home runs, 53 RBIs, and a batting .259 on the season. He's also got 10 stolen bases. It seems really doing well this season with stealing bases, and it's good to see that even Brandon Nimmo, they've been shifting him in and up on the lineup, and I don't know if he's been better now as he's gone back to leading off, and he'll go to batting fifth in certain spots. He's batted second, so those seem to be the best spots for him, first and second. And where do you like Brandon Nimmo best?
Yeah, when he was hitting in that cleanup area to start the season, I was kind of questioning it with him and Vientos. So I like him hitting above in the lineup better in that 1 or 2 spot. You mentioned it. I mean, starting to really pick it up. More multi-hit games that we're seeing. Is it all translating into run production? It's not outside of himself, unfortunately, but he's had a couple of big games over the last few weeks. So this top half of the lineup, man, it is very critical. And that's why it makes me wonder, and I know we're going to get to the trade deadline, because everything I read, it seems like a lot of the critiques are they need another bat. Imagine this team with one more bat. It'll be hard to stop them. And I think a lot of their overall struggles will start to disappear with one more power bat in that mix.
The best power bat we have right now is Juan Soto. I know he's not doing very well with runners in scoring position. It kind of feels like the stats are deceiving a little bit, although almost a la Pete Alonso last season, right? He was hitting home runs, he was getting RBIs, but he wasn't hitting with runners in scoring position very well. I don't know how fantasy teams have taken to the drafting Juan Soto probably in the first round. But he does lead the team with 23 home runs. He's got 56 RBIs. He's got 11 stolen bases, which I think he only stole maybe about 12 last season. I got to double check that. But he leads the entire league in walks. And if you're a categories guy and walks is there, you have Juan Soto. He's helping out in that, batting .262 after a tough start. But Juan Soto's being Juan Soto. I mean, what more is there to say? Except for not being able to hit with runners in scoring position, Juan Soto has been mostly advertised.
Yeah, where were you on all the heat that he was getting for what he was saying? The whole he regrets not being with the Yankees, the slow start. I just felt that he got an unnecessary amount of heat. And I'm going to say something that'll probably offend a few people, maybe a little bit of the New York media. The New York media, New York radio shows, TV shows, I follow them all just like you do. They were all over it like bees on a hive. They were taking certain phrases of things that Juan Soto said, completely blowing them up. And I felt like it turned this guy into a heel before he was even a Met for an entire 30 days, technically, in season. And I don't know where you stood on that, but I was kind of getting pissed off that people were just so on him. Like, let this guy breathe a little bit. Let this guy adjust. I know they're paying him like $800 million, but still he's a man that's trying to adjust to his new surroundings and everything. At least give this guy one of his 15 seasons before wanting to throw him into the fire. I felt like it was too much.
Yeah, I did a whole episode probably a few weeks after we did ours at the beginning of the season on the way that the New York media was treating him. Look, he's going to get that anyway because he signed the big contract. So every move, every comment, everything that's being said from him, everything that he does on and off the field is going to be microscoped to a 10th degree. The big problem here is that he decided to go from the Yankees to the Mets, and there are media members in the Yankees that had a problem with that and decided to make a bigger deal out of it than it was. And they even made a big deal about his comments about not making the All-Star game. I could care less.
Right. Who cares? At the end of the day, and I'm sorry, when it comes to All-Star games and everything, when you have a sport that requires an All-Star from every single team, to me, that's not an All-Star. To me, that doesn't matter. To me, when I'm looking at a player's career, and a lot of people are critical with how the Hall of Fame is so critical on letting certain players in and everything like that. I love it, though. I love it for that reason. Other sports, everyone gets in. Basketball, because it's not the NBA Hall of Fame, everybody gets in to the Pro Basketball Hall of Fame if they average 22-plus points. But with all-star teams, you're forcing players to become all-stars to just check a box to make sure each team is represented. And that's BS. And here's the other thing with Juan Soto, too. He might not be an all-star. I get that. But at the same time, the dude's hit, 322 in June? Love that. All-star in my eyes right now, where it counts, and that's for this team.
Absolutely. And you know what? If he sits out the All-Star game, well, he didn't make the All-Star game, fine. I want to see him in the postseason. I want to see what he does for the team then. That matters more to me than making the All-Star game. Although he probably should have been an All-Star. Like
and now the MLB, and now, they're all over that. But now with the whole swing off, which was awesome, where were your best power hitters? They weren't even at the stadium when the swing off was happening. Aaron Judge, where's that going to be? It's not going to be Judge's fault or anything like that. They're going to blame the MLB. But with Soto, it's just they're looking for a way to villainize Soto because of the $800 million. This is what athletes get paid now. You're seeing it all over sports, except for most positions in football and hockey. You're seeing athletes get paid a ton more than we did even 20 years ago. They have the money. That's it. Regarding him going from the Yankees to the Mets, that's the Yankees' fault. All right, that has nothing to do with the Mets. He starts off slow. I get that they have to create buzz and a story and everything, but they were killing this guy like he completely offended the team, like he did the Mets wrong. And you got to give the guy a season. You got to give the guy a few seasons before you mark him as an enemy to the organization.
And with Juan Soto, and his resume, I really wasn't worried about, him hitting. The whole team was stinking, right? Like the whole offense was not good. And now the top four in the lineup have finally taken off. Now Steve Cohen is calling them the Fab Four. And then you got the rest of the lineup. And as Rosie K, put it, the bottom of the lineup has been brutal, right?
Yeah.
David Stearns took a chance this season, right? He did not re-sign Jose Iglesias, which, let's be fair, Jose Iglesias has really not been good out there in San Diego. So them not re-signing him is not the biggest of deals here.
Well, let's be real about that for a second. It was more than what we saw on the field. And you know what? You need guys like that in the locker room. Guys that bring the fun into these sports, money and winning and greed and talking crap on social media. That's at the forefront of sports, but you need good character guys that bring the team together. And Candelita did that. Trust me, everybody was sad when he wasn't back with the team.
Oh, yeah.
But is he a make or break guy for the team? No, he's not. Candelita is good for the morale, and that could be one of the most important things. That's great for the team. But him being there, make or break, no.
Well, and also the Mets wanted to move on from all of the outside stuff that happened, because you can only take OMG and Grimace and Rally Pimp. You can only take all those things so far to have that be a part of this team.
Maximo Wiener or whatever.
Yeah. You can only take you can only take those things so far, and you have to eventually, move on. And that's what David Stearns was trying to do here. He was trying to give the kids a chance to prove themselves. And they really haven't, right?
No.
I mean, we expected Mark Vientos to be a 25 to 30 home run hitting guy, because that's what he showed us last season. He showed us that he was able to bounce back from adversity and also hit so well, probably one of the best offensive performances in the postseason that you're ever going to see a Met do. He did that. And now he's back. And we talked about it in the offseason preview about a possible sophomore slump. And that's what we're getting from Mark Vientos in his second full season of playing. He has not been able to get himself right. He's been very disappointing. And you could throw him in there. You mentioned Francisco Alvarez, who's now in the minor leagues right now. That hasn't worked out.
He's like my favorite player on the team, too. And I just, it's unfortunate. The power's there, Anthony. The power's there. Got banged up. That put him behind the 8 ball last year. This year, it's just, you can't be hitting 220 if you're him,
No. And I agree with Armand. Like I said, he wanted to give the kids a shot, and he did. Even Brett Beatty's had some good, some bad. No one has been a consistent player. Ronnie Mauricio as well has been inconsistent. So these guys have been struggling at the bottom of the lineup, not to mention that you take a bench player like Tyrone Taylor, and now he's starting in the outfield, and that's why you're getting what you're getting offensively from Tyrone Taylor. So it's been a struggle with the bottom of this lineup.
Yeah, no, it absolutely has been. And somebody else I was excited about was Acuna. I thought that and I was going back and forth with you on him being an everyday player at this point. We were debating. It was between, I believe, we were talking Beatty or Acuna for a spot like that. We were talking about that. And Acuna, man, it's just, I thought that he would be making a bigger impact than he has. And yeah, this has just been very disappointing at the bottom of the lineup, like you're saying. And they need another bat.
Yeah. It's come to a point where, and we'll get to this more once we get to the trade deadline talk, is it time to maybe break the kids up and maybe trade one or two of them away? There's one or two positions for about 4 or 5 of these guys, and no one is really stealing the deal, where you may even think at the trade deadline, third base, if there's someone available, and there are a couple, maybe do you make a trade for a third baseman? I mean, you have to think about these things if you're serious about having a deep run in the postseason with, the Dodgers being at the top of you got the Padres, the Giants, that whole West is out there. You got the Cubs who are playing very well. And then you talk about the Phillies as well.
Yeah, no, and here's the other thing too. I think that when we were having our conversations, and even over the last month or two, I actually thought maybe I was naive or whatnot. I thought the Braves would come around, and the Braves have not come around. And I don't think, I mean, do I think that they could get hot? Sure, we've seen teams get hot, but that's also something that you got to also consider when you're looking at the Mets, and they're going to be in a dogfight for the rest of the way. And I think, look, with the way the team is composed of right now, I think you do try to add another vet or so, and not just a rental, Anthony, someone that can maybe be on the team for a few years. So going into the offseason, okay, you got yourself a little bit more depth at pitching because of the trade deadline. Oh, here's another outfielder who can hit you maybe 260, 265. And by the time he comes, maybe get you 10 to 15 home runs at that time before the end of the season. And so I think if you're the Mets at this point, being that the pitching has worked out so well, and now I think with the hitting could be better, I think will get better, I think you do go all in with your chips and try to go on a run. Worked last year on an adrenaline run. They've got the power to compete with some of those bigger teams with the bigger bats, and especially the Phillies. Once again, I'm down with going all in.
And, Oddville puts it, LOL Braves. The Braves are out of the picture right now. You got to take advantage of that when they're out of the picture.
You do.
You got to take advantage.
I did not think that was going to happen. I ended up betting a future shortly after, about a month into the season. They were at plus 750 to win the division, plus 750 to win the division. And I'm like, okay, can they make up 8 to 10 games? I think they can. I was more worried in that regard for the Phillies than the Mets. And so I actually put a very small wager on it. And clearly that's a ticket that I could probably rip the hell up right now. But the Braves do have those bats. That's the thing. Their pitching has been in and out, and it's been a little inconsistent. They do have those bats. So if you're the Mets right now with this kind of lead, it even gives you more incentive to go all in right now.
Well, speaking about some of the bets, we made some earlier on in the season.
Oh boy.
Before the season started. So let's go over some of them. I went back to the episode. I looked it over, got some of the ones we did. Over under 90.5 wins at minus 110. Both of us took the over. You said about 91 wins. I said about 93. How are we feeling about that right now?
I mean, I'm feeling pretty good about it. It's going to be close. It's going to be very close. But again, just coming off of last year, just seeing guys like Vientos really start to step up, Alonso start to step up when it really counted most. I was really vibing off of that and adding Soto to the mix, thinking that this was going to be the most potent lineup in baseball, all things equal, everybody healthy. So right now, as it stands, I'm feeling good. Do I think it's a lock? No. I think that at the end of the day, though, we're going to be looking in that 92, 93 area when all's said and done.
Oddvillain says 97.
Okay.
You think we can
Yes, I do. Again, they're in this position right now where you add another player or two and they're going to be fine. So, yeah, I don't want to say it's like very, very optimistic for Oddsvillain, but yeah, don't put your house mortgage on that if you're betting a future and you're putting up the win total as much as you can to improve those odds. I could see it, though. Do I see 100? No, it's not going to happen.
They'd have to go on a serious run.
They'd have to be pretty much undefeated.
Yeah, and the problem with this Mets team is a couple of these, I wouldn't say a couple, probably about 5 to 10 games are self-inflicted losses.
Right.
Right? Like they've done it themselves. Like you can't have those kind of games. You can't lose to the Pirates and the Orioles. I want to say you can't lose to the Rays, but the Rays have had our number for many years. So, I'm going to leave that out there, but you can't lose like to the Marlins and the Nationals. You got to beat those teams and got to sweep some of them sometimes. So
I'll say this, though. The Nationals, though, like you brought up the Nationals. Yeah, the Nationals record-wise aren't good, but do you see some of these guys they got in Washington, including James Wood? I mean, you're starting to see James Wood get intentionally walked already. So they've got some Utes in that lineup that have already started to blossom there. So, yeah, as a whole with the Nationals, not threatening, but they do have patches of their lineup that can crush a lot of these teams.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Now, to make the playoffs was minus 250. Both of us said yes. You feeling good about that still? I still do. I think that there's I think it was like a 77% chance that they were at right now.
Oh, I'm a little
76.
bit surprised it's that high. I thought they'd be more. If I had to guess the percentage, I thought that they may be 58 to 60, kind of right on the line, but still a little bit more. Where's my confidence level with them making the playoffs? You mentioned the West. The West scares the hell out of me right now, and especially with Devers. Devers doesn't get traded to San Francisco. I'm a bit more confident right there. But look, San Francisco is right there. So I'm confident, but I'm not overly confident. I'm not planning my trips to New York to try to go see a game just yet.
To win the NL East, plus 240. We both stayed away from that because we thought Phillies, we thought Braves were going to be in on it. And now it's kind of like a two-team race between the Phillies and the Mets. If you put plus 240 on that, I mean, you have a good opportunity here, but I still did not think it was the smartest of bets to go in on the division, with the Braves. I mean, even there are still some fans that are like, you know what? When is the Braves going to do their run like they did in 2022? So
yeah, I mean, look, that's why to me, and we're talking about this right now, I can't just put the Braves in my rearview mirror and forget about them the rest of the way. They've got bats. They get it together. The problem with them is just when you start to kind of see them all come together, they lose somebody else. That's the problem with the Braves right now. And yeah, the Braves, they're 10 games out of the division right now. We've seen teams make up a lot of ground. Mets fans know what it's like being up a lot of games with very few to go and then seeing leads get erased just like that. Cough, cough, 2007. So I still have to view the Braves there. Do I think the Marlins will be there? Probably not. They'll fall. But do I see the Braves potentially going on a run? I do.
Another one we stayed away from, plus 700 for the Mets to win the National League Championship and go to the World Series. It's like you mentioned. I think it's the same thing with getting the NL East. So we stayed away from it. This one's even harder because, like you mentioned, Dodgers. You mentioned all the teams in the NL West, Padres,
right.
Giants. Yeah.
I thought, by the way, I know Arizona's hovering around 500. I thought Arizona was going to be a bit better than they've been. So I actually was worried about pretty much the entire division.
They took a step back and they made some big moves in the offseason, bringing in, Corbin Burns, who is out for the season. I think he's having he had Tommy John surgery. So
too many elbow injuries now, man. When we were kids, we did not see nearly. It was like Mark Pryor, and that's it. It seemed like.
And they're trying to protect them a whole lot more than they did when we were kids.
It's you know what it is. I've actually watched a lot of interviews, especially with like college coaches. They think they burn them out too much in youth leagues, in high school leagues. They just think that these guys are just overworking. No matter how much you train and you condition your body when you're that young, they think that there's just too much being done then, and the wear and tear is impactful younger in a professional athlete's career, especially in baseball on the pitching side.
Yeah, and if you see some of the videos that some of the kids post on social media, it's not working on mechanics, working on where to throw your pitches. Everything is just about throwing as fast as you can.
Like, think about
every pitch.
Mizorowski, who I was so happy that the Mets were able to get to right there. That was a statement when they got to Mizorowski. Mizorowski's throwing a 96-mile-an-hour slider. That shouldn't be happening right there. That's how your arm explodes while you're on the mound.
Yeah. And that's how, as Odd Villain says, that's they don't make elbows like they used to. So,
exactly.
They're all going to have to go to camps, and
we're at the point where there's two different like Tommy John surgeries now. There's the like internal brace, and then there's the other one too. That's how detailed we've gotten with these elbow injuries.
Yeah, the pitching has been less about finesse, where you had like the Jamie Moyers pitching until they were 40, R.A. Dickey with his knuckleball, and more about how fast can I throw this ball. Like Armand says, all about velo and spin rate. Yeah. So it's crazy, this era of baseball. As Brandon says, the new era.
You were
is just
asking
all
about
throwing.
The fantasy world before, and the fan. Now you know how the fantasy world has been all year, because it seems like from the elbow side, just thinking about it, I can think of maybe at least 8 to 10 severe elbow injuries at halfway point of the season.
Yeah, absolutely. When we go back to some of these bets. Pete Alonso over 33.5 home runs. We did a couple of a little bit of these futures a little bit. I think we're both in agreement over, right?
Yes,
He's at
that was like our favorite bet, if I
Yeah.
remember correctly.
He's at 21 right now. He'll definitely break the record, I think he'll definitely get over 33.
Yeah,
for sure.
Same
thing with Juan Soto.
I'm wondering if he could go on a little bit more of a run and maybe even get to like 45 when all's said and done.
Yeah, he did have that one little streak this year, and it was the longest streak of his career where he went homerless. So hopefully that doesn't happen again this season. But I think he will, at the very least, hit that 33.5 over.
Can we count the one he hit in the All-Star game?
Well, apparently, all you have to do to win an MVP is hit 3 home runs. The rest of the game didn't count, but the 3 home runs that were soft tossed.
That dang Kyle Schwarber, man.
Unbelievable.
These Phillies bats, man, since like the 2000s when you had like Pat Burrell and Utley and Jimmy Rollins, Ryan Howard, and now these new Phillies bats, man, it's when I see like Schwarber there, especially when the Mets are facing him, they're like my stomach just drops, man. It's like that same Pat Burrell feeling that I had all those years ago.
Although Edwin Diaz has his number. He is 0 for 11, 9 strikeouts against Kyle Schwarber. So just throw Diaz every time Schwarber comes up to that. Juan Soto also over 33.5. I think he will reach that. He's already got 23 home runs. He has more home runs, at least one more home run, but he has more home runs in his career after the first half than he did for the rest of his career. So I think he'll get over that.
Yeah, I'm with you there. And again, just seeing him just overcome the early season struggles and everything, and just now hearing the silence, the pin drop, as now the New York media scrambles to try to make another story on why Soto's such a bad guy. Again, what you saw him do in June while the team was struggling, very encouraging, because when this team is now hitting in simpatico all together, that team is going to be very deadly. It just shows right there. And it's good that you have guys like Soto still hitting, even when the team is struggling mightily.
Francisco Lindor, over 25.5 stolen bases. He's got 15 right now.
Yeah, I mean, I think he's going to make it. It's going to be close, but I think he's going to be right there. I'm thinking that maybe he's flirting with 30.
I did put the MVP for the National League in here. Soto was at plus 550. Lindor was at plus 1,600. Alonso was at plus 5,000. So if you bet on Alonso, he's right, your best option at this moment in time. Not saying he's going to win it, but he's the best option out of the Mets right now.
Yeah, so a lot of people that are in a nervous sweat right now, they want Alonso to get to that 45 mark, because then maybe top 3 guy at that point.
Cy Young. Kodai Senga at plus 2,800. Let's say he stays healthy for the rest of this season and continues to dominate the way that he has. Right now, 7-3, 1.39 ERA. If you bet that plus 2,800, I mean, there's a big opportunity here for Kodai Senga.
Yeah. It's hard. It's hard for me to think that at the end of the day, and look, he's been great, but at the end of the day, first thing you said, staying healthy. I'm sure you saw my head bob like the Night at the Roxbury's movie just now, but that's a big question right there. And then number 2, I see someone like a Zach Wheeler, and I'm like, how's he going to be able to beat former Met Zach Wheeler, who's just a complete strikeout machine? And that's where I just can't see. And Armand is saying it too.
Yeah, as well as Skeens. You look at Skeens, he's another one. So there's always hope. But
for Skeens, because like the team he's on, they won't spend money. Hopefully they spend on him and spend around him. But I mean, you look at the wins, and that's how he's going to be judged. That's why you often hear wins are a very overrated stat. Quality starts even impacted when he's barely getting run support, only against the Mets.
Yeah, absolutely. I want to move on with you to the trade deadline here and the trade deadline needs. I had the needs at relief pitcher, obviously top there. Another starting pitcher would not be so bad either to have if you could get another closer to frontline starter. I don't think an ace is in the cards for this team right now. Center fielder, I think they need. That could go towards the bat. And maybe I put question mark third base if you want to move in that direction. If you're not sold on Ronnie Mauricio playing third base, which he's played pretty decent third base, if you ask myself, I think that he's going to be the one, if they don't make a trade, that ends up being the third baseman for as long as he's here, over Brett Beatty, over Mark Vientos and Luis Angel Acuna. But those are the positions of need that I am thinking for the Mets.
So if you're looking to add a little bit more power, and you've mentioned this team a few times, and Mets fans know about this team because they can't really beat this team. That's the Baltimore Orioles. If the Baltimore Orioles are going to look to sell a little bit, the way they handled their farm system from the hitting side has been absolutely tremendous. They've been just churning out hitter after hitter after hitter. They need more help on the pitching side ultimately, but they've got a few guys that the Mets surely could be interested in. Ryan O'Hearn is one of those players, Anthony, that I just think is all but certain going to get traded. I think he's one of the hottest names on the deadline, so they can look to get him.
He was talked about, him and Josh Naylor earlier on in the season with Pat Ragazzo of SI wrote an article that those are two possible options that the Mets could look into. Both play first base, both the outfield.
Yeah, it's happening with O'Hearn. If he's going somewhere. I don't see with him on the walk here the Orioles retaining him. But that's a fine. I know I was saying before, don't worry about a rental. That's an okay rental right there. Nice infield, outfield guy. Also, you can look at maybe a Cedric Mullins too, if you want more help in the outfield. I think you go to Baltimore. They've got the bats, and they've got the young guys too, that if they lose a few of their veterans, so what? They're not going anywhere. I think they get onto Camden Yards right now, get on that flight to BWI.
It's safe to say that if the Mets want to trade and make a big splash with some of these prospects and move some of these guys around, that they're going to have to spend a lot on a guy like Jarren Duran, who I don't even know if at this point in time now is going to be available, with the Red Sox, I think, sneaking into a final playoff spot after a huge winning streak to go into the All-Star break.
Yeah, 10-game winning streak right there. You know what? And it's unfortunate because, again, that right there would be a dream target, and it would cost them. And to me, if you're the Mets, you pay for this guy. But like you said, did Boston think after the Devers thing they would be in this position? Clearly, because they got rid of Rafael Devers and everything. And to see them now right there with the Yankees, and I don't know where Toronto's going to be when all's said and done. I think that they could still compete. But yeah, their situation has completely changed. And unfortunately, the asking price is going to be up. But if we know the Red Sox really well, they like getting rid of really good hitters.
Yeah, they've done it in the past, and they will do it again if the price is right. If the price is right. I want to talk third base with you because Eugenio Suarez is out there. You talked about Arizona. Eugenio Suarez is out there. Would you dabble in that? Would you?
Another guy where you're getting. I was talking about if someone can come to the team and maybe hit you 15 home runs between the deadline and the end of the season. Who better than him? Just a complete power bat. Barely has to put any muscle to hit it out of the park. And again, someone you're looking for a little bit of balance in that second half of the lineup. That would be a dream to get him too. I don't know why. Have you seen whether or not the Mets are linked to him? Because here's the thing. You brought up third base. I wasn't even really thinking about third base. I was focused on the pen, the starter, and also the outfield, especially the outfield. They get Suarez. That's someone I'd absolutely want.
Third base is the least likely, I think, that they make a move on. There's not that many options outside of Eugenio Suarez. And on the Athletics article that they put out for the trade deadline, Alex Bregman, you want to talk about a Boston Red Sox? Alex Bregman is at number 2. Jarren Duran number 1, Alex Bregman number 2 on the trade market as they have here. There was talks about Alex Bregman coming in the offseason. I don't know if they can make a move with the money that he has. Maybe it means less prospects or whatever. Third base is the least. I just thought that, if they're not sold on any of these guys who have not taken third base, by the balls, you have to think, would they make a trade?
I think they do. And again, this goes back to our conversation from March or April. We both thought that they were going to be in that 90-win area. That's playoff area. So we both talked about the importance of them having to go in at the deadline. I'm wondering, though, Anthony, if maybe they try to make the deal now, because something that goes back to what the Giants did here, they took advantage because these asking prices are going to go up each day the closer you get to the deadline. The desperation rises. And so as the market, as the desperation and the need and the want rises, the other side of it rises too. The asking prices would rise. And I'm wondering if the Mets maybe not wait to see how the first week, 2 weeks go after the All-Star break. Strike while the iron's hot. They know what they have. They've known the entire time, at least in my opinion, that they were going to be making a move. Make the damn move. Go compete.
Yeah. No, and Game 4 is saying for him, pitching, relief, and center field is more important than third base, which I totally agree with. I totally agree with this. Just that the scenario is there with none of these guys being able to take hold of third base. With, you have the Bregman being available and Suarez being available. Armand saying, what if you go after in this Suarez, but as well as either Zach Gallen, and I assume you're saying Merrill Kelly as well, who are in there, Arizona. There's also Mitch Keller out there, old Met. I don't know if people want to revisit this, but Seth Lugo is out there. And let me throw this right now. The Jacob deGrom, no. It's not happening, folks.
No, have we not been punished enough? I love deGrom. When deGrom had a lot of great moments, good years, but we've also seen the other side of that too with the health. When you're going and making an all-in move like this, you don't go after a perennially injured guy. You just don't do that. So that's not really where I stand. Other pitchers, if you want to go for pitching very quickly that I wrote down, would you want to go back to Sevy at all? Getting him? The problem with me with
his
that
contract.
The contract, yes, but also he's had a real terrible attitude.
Yeah.
I know that it's the A's right now don't really have a home. I know it's kind of like awkward and everything, but he's made it very clear that no matter what he wants out of there, you might not want to bring the negativity into the Mets culture right now.
Yeah, no, I at first I was like, you know what, we could probably use Sevy, but now looking over the last couple of weeks and seeing how he has been in Oakland, which he caused that himself.
Yes.
If you're going to sign the big contract for them, good for you that you wanted to sign and take care of your family. I'm all for that. But when you're going to Oakland or wherever they play, Sacramento right now, you know that you're not in for a good season with that team, and they're in a hitter's ballpark, a minor league ballpark, and
we get it. They hate the facilities. We get it, but you're getting paid.
Well, let me ask you this, because there are a lot of starters out here in there. It was mentioned by Armand, Merrill Kelly, Zach Gallen. I said Mitch Keller. You look at some more of these starting pitchers that are here. Nick Martinez is out there. Zach
what about Edward Cabrera?
But I think he was taken out of his last start. I think he got hurt, but he's out there as well. Sandy Alcantara. There's just so many names. Zach Eflin as well. Chris Paddock. The list goes. Lucas Giolito I see on here. Soroka, Andrew Heaney, Tyler Anderson, and those are more of the bottom line starters, which you would put toward the back of the rotation. But it doesn't go crazy of an ace. You're not going to get an ace in this. You're just going to get a good 2, 3, maybe a 4 or 5. And I don't know how David Stearns decides to handle that situation.
Yeah, how much capital do you want to give up? You were talking about, is it time to break up some of these young hitters? Well, that's a decision right there. I like the suggestions from Armand regarding the Arizona pitchers. They are loaded with deadline talent. We were talking about Suarez too. I'm fine. If they got Zach Gallen at the deadline, again, I'd be fine with that.
Well, how about this trade? Joe DeMayo of SNY came up with this. Jesus Baez and Zach Thornton, those guys are minor leaguers in the Mets system, for Zach Gallen. And I said, when do I put the gas in my car to drive those guys over there? I am ready. That trade I'd do in a heartbeat.
That's a drive that's not going to take a heartbeat of a time, though. I'll tell you that much, though. I'm totally fine with that. Again, going in on an arm to me has been the plan this entire time. They thought they were going to compete. They're competing. They're They're facing a lucky dodged bullet right now with the Braves being as bad as they are, but they could get hot. Don't forget about that. And I'm fine with dipping into your minor league system and trading away to get a win now guy. The Mets are not really used to being in this position at this point. I think now, though, is a time where you got to strike.
It's hard for me to see them getting a hitter with there not being as much out there, and the needs, even like with a Cedric Mullins. Yes, he's going to be the starting center fielder, but he has not hit well with runners in scoring position. A lot of these guys have not. So you're adding to a lineup that already doesn't do that. You look at third base and there's not that many options. Starting pitchers, there are a lot of options. Relief pitchers, there are a lot of options. When you see all these options, that you think, maybe the Mets don't have to give up so much at the trade deadline with all these pitchers being available.
So one name that I had, I think I teased it before, but I always wonder when it's inter-division trading, what are your thoughts on them getting maybe or reaching out and getting Kyle Finnegan, who I know has been kind of thrown out there?
I think I wanted Kyle Finnegan in the offseason.
So you're good.
Yeah. I think Armand even put that in the chat about Kyle Finnegan as well. Let me, if I could go back, he put Kyle Finnegan as well as Jake Bird from the Rockies.
You know what's funny? You keep saying the chat, and I've been in the private chat section the entire. I'm like, where are these comments? Oh, there's the comment section, right? It's not like I don't use StreamYard once a week on YouTube or anything like that. I do,
but they're out there. They're out there. So those are definite names. Brandon is asking, what about Byron Buxton? And I think Byron Buxton already has stated about his no trade clause and not wanting to leave and wanting to be a Twin for life. I don't think he's an option. I don't even know if I want him due to his health.
Yeah, no, that's the joke is always, when is he going to get hurt? And 95% of the time, the prophecy comes true. But
especially when you come to the Mets.
Right. But yeah, exactly. No, thank you. Again, if you're going to invest and you're going to dip into the pool, it's time for them to go all in. Last year, again, you would say last year, I knew you had higher expectations than I did. But would you still call the run they went on more of an adrenaline run, all things considered?
Yes.
Okay.
I think it was once, because they only made the postseason by percentage points over Arizona.
Right.
Once Lindor hit that home run in Atlanta, I think that's when it all began. And then it went into overdrive once Alonso hit the game winner in Milwaukee.
Oh, yeah. They were playing 2 games that day, and they lost the first game against Atlanta. I forget.
No, they won game 1 to get at Atlanta to go into the postseason, and then they took game 2 off and rested.
Right. That's right.
So, I feel like that adrenaline rush catapulted them. But then they made that team just feel together, and all the stuff that Cohen does for the families and stuff, that he makes this more of a destination to want to come to. Whereas, now Soto is here, plus the $800 million that he's making. So, I feel like more players want to, be here. And now you can't be like, hey, this is a transition year, or hey, let's just make it into even for me, it's not even just make it into the postseason. I think it's, how can we get back to the NLCS? That's for me. That's where I would go. As we wrap up the trade deadline talk, let's get to the relief pitchers, because you got guys out there that have been talked about. Aroldis Chapman has been talked about. Armand has mentioned it. Johan Duran, who is with the Twins, he's been talked about. You even talk about Emmanuel Clase, and there's a lot of closers here, but the Mets have to realize as well is, are they going to re-sign Edwin Diaz at the end of the season? Because his contract is coming up here, and he might go to free agency. And if he has this stellar season, he's going to get another decent deal.
Yeah. No, it's true. I don't know if they address the closer spot right now, thinking with that mindset, but just getting another arm, like you just rattled off a few closers here, or a few relief pitchers. I mean, what about someone, I know that he hasn't been great lately. He's allowed a couple of home runs, but what about a Reed Detmers, who you probably wouldn't have to give up much for at all, but yet puts a lefty in that bullpen for you, which I know that you're into. So puts a little bit of a differentiation in the bullpen, and I don't think will even cost you anything. Probably like a player to be named later. That's it.
I need 2 lefties in my bullpen at all times.
Yeah, there you go. Well, he should not cost a lot. Let me tell you.
And this losing AJ Minter and Danny Young within a week is the reason why. I've always needed 2 guys in my bullpen to be left-handed pitchers. And I hope that once we get back Brooks Raley and you add another one at the bullpen at the trade deadline, I think that will be perfect for this bullpen, because they've been struggling, to find a decent lefty to help out.
Yep.
So,
and I know we talked about Static before. I'm willing to continue to put confidence. I can't believe I'm saying that with him, but I think down the stretch he'll be all right if there's a little bit more depth to help him out a little bit in the bullpen. The last few matchups, and this is why you have him in there against hard teams, but they have been, and I'm not trying to make excuses. He has had a tough stretch of opponents before the Baltimore game where he walked 4 guys.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And shout out to the chat again. 160 people in the room right now. Appreciate you guys giving us your thoughts on the trade deadline. Eddie Presti saying Chapman would be the ideal fit, but Boston is competing. His price may be insane, and it might be. It feels like he's always traded at the deadline, and is it not? Or Chapman, he's
blockbuster. He's the ultimate rental at this point.
He's a lefty. He can close. I mean, I wouldn't want him in the biggest of spots because we've seen him struggle and fail in those roles. But he could definitely get you through as a 7th or 8th inning guy for sure. But let's see how this pans out. I'm not going to say that yes, the Mets have to be players in this trade deadline. My confidence that they are is not at the highest, just because of what we've seen from them in the past. I think that they make the moves like they did last season, where they get some of these ancillary bench spot players or, some bullpen guy. Maybe they get a spot starter type in there as well. I don't see them making any big moves unless they're ready and willing to trade some of these kids. And even then, the kids have not made themselves valuable to a lot of these teams, unless you're really trading from the minors and you're talking about the Jet Williams of the world, Jonah Tong, who I don't want to trade, as well as a Nolan McLean. I don't want to trade those guys right now, especially that they're pitchers. So we'll see how that ends up. One more player that I want to get into with you, Stanley Babich mentions this, and I talked about a free agent guy, David Robertson. I know he's coming up on 40. I know G Money Stacks mentioned that, not wanting him for that reason. But David Robertson, I mean, the guy can pitch in New York. I mean, he's the ultimate reliever. He can close as well. Think Mets should bring him back?
I mean, look, if he has anything left in the tank, why not give him a few weeks and then see you later? If not, I don't mind kicking the tires on him again. And pitching in New York, and being that this is a New York-based show, we all know the immense pressure that it is. And if you have someone that can help you out, build a bridge for you in that pen, and the Mets desperately need it, why not? It should not cost them that much.
I agree. I would give it another try with David Robertson, and see if he could catch lightning in the bottle again.
I will cry if they get rid of David Peterson. Yes. He's becoming like my new favorite player on this team. He wants to be out there. Is he the best pitcher in baseball? He's not. Is he the flashiest? He's not. But he wants to be out there. He doesn't want to be taken out in an era where everybody is taken out and wins and quality starts are sparse now.
Especially for starting pitchers.
Yeah.
I mean, when the Mets aren't scoring runs until the 6th or 7th inning, your starting pitcher is not going to get a victory. That's for sure. That happened to Jacob deGrom so many times. Jacob deGrom should probably have close to 210 wins already at this point in time if the Mets actually scored some runs for him. And sometimes all they needed was 1 or 2 runs, and that was even a problem and a hassle. As we talk about some Mets legends as Jacob deGrom will become, David Wright is getting his number retired this week, and I will be in the house for that. I will be at Citi Field for that game. The number retirement, as well as the Hall of Fame ceremony. I think he's the first player since Tom Seaver to get both his number retired and be put into the Hall of Fame.
He absolutely deserves it. And you mean, just a great character guy to have on the team. Always had such a great attitude. And I'll say this too, as someone who's worked in media since 2008, 2009, that area, he always would make himself available. He didn't have that diva-like persona. Any radio host that I worked with to get him on, he was always very appreciative, always very mannerly, just a classy guy to have. And there were times where he was close to bringing this team to the mountaintop. 2006, for instance, where that team was a team of destiny, didn't really work out. And to see some of the big plays that he made, and I got to be at a few of those big plays that he made. I mean, Anthony, it was a blessing having someone like David Wright on this team, because nowadays in sports, everybody wanting to play with their friends. Players come and go very quickly. There's a lot of money going around. But to have someone like David Wright stay with the Mets the entire time he did, 11, 12, 13 years, something like that. It was just great having him, and a great athlete, and someone that's great for our kids to look up to too.
7-time All-Star, 2-time Gold Glover, 2-time Silver Slugger, 296 batting average, had 970 RBIs, had 242 home runs, even stole 196 bases. So he was your all-around guy at third base. So many big moments from you want to talk about All-Star game. He had that 2006 All-Star home run derby where he made it to the finals and lost to Ryan Howard. The Phillies always getting in the way of the Mets at the All-Star game. He also had a home run in the All-Star game in the 06. He had a lot of success at the All-Star game. He hit pretty well there, being named captain, as was mentioned, the World Series home run in 2015.
I was there for that.
You were there for that. Some amazing catches. I know you're going to say, your favorite moment. One of mine's, you know what? You go with yours first.
Oh, man. I mean, this might be my favorite live sports moment. And I was there when Marcus Camby tried to punch out Danny Ferry, but hit Jeff Van Gundy, headbutted him instead. I was at that game at Madison Square Garden. I was at the Bates penalty shot Islanders playoff game against the Toronto Maple Leafs back in like 02 or 03. I was there. But in 2006, in middle of May 2006, when David Wright hit a freaking shot off of Mariano Rivera, sending the ball right over Johnny Damon's head, and Paul LaDuca comes in scoring, and the Mets winning 7-6. I remember stopping, having this moment of clarity. I looked around Shea Stadium, and I was at the time, Game 3 of the 2000 World Series between the Mets and the Yankees. I had never seen and been in an arena rocking that much, or a stadium rocking as much as Shea did that night. Probably 40% Yankee fans, too, that were all singing the blues when the Mets were able to beat Mariano. My favorite live sports moment. I'll never, ever forget being there for it.
And then mine came 2 days later, same Subway Series. I was at that Sunday night game against the Yankees, and Sunday night baseball, night game, Subway Series, both teams are killing. We talked about it earlier on. When both teams are great, that Subway Series is taken to another level. Mets were down, I think it was 2-0. Aaron Small was on the mound. Carlos Delgado hits a 3-run home run to give the Mets the lead, and then David Wright comes, and what I thought was he hit that ball out of Shea Stadium. I don't think that ball landed. He hit that so far. I think that was the farthest I ever seen him hit a home run. So, that was one of my all-time favorite moments with David Wright. And then I got to throw this one, a young Subway to Shea, 2000, not too young, but 2005, fresh into college, getting to meet David Wright in the parking lot of Shea Stadium, man. He was, like you mentioned, he was one of the nicest guys, comes out, signs for all the fans, takes pictures with everybody. David Wright, one of the best out there to ever do it. And congratulations to him on getting his number retired and being immortalized as a New York Met forever.
Your moment from the same, happens to be the same Subway Series, like you mentioned, as mine. Wasn't that when that Sunday night game, wasn't that when Tyler Clippard, I believe, made his debut for the Yankees, or is that another year?
It's possible.
Right? I think that might have been Tyler Clippard's first start. I'll have to check that out, but I don't know why. I know a lot of useless information.
It's good information. We love to
Yes.
hear it. We love to hear it. All right, as we wrap up the show, a couple of news and happenings surrounding this this New York Mets. If you recapping All-Star Week real quick, great to see Francisco Lindor get a start at shortstop. He didn't fare well at the plate, but him, Pete Alonso, who hit the big 3-run home run, and I thought was going to be the NL MVP, got that stolen from him. David Peterson, great to see them. It was great seeing David Peterson throw to Aaron Judge, who grounded out to Lindor, to Alonso. That was a fun little moment to see be a part of that. Pete Alonso, there's only 3 Mets that hit a home run in the All-Star game. Pete, David Wright, and Lee Mazzilli. And you think of some of the players that we've had, Darryl Strawberry, Mike Piazza,
that
as well. Never did.
1987, I'm sure on Facebook I find these videos rather find me with the way the technology is. I watch a lot of these all-star starting lineups getting announced. And if you look at the one, and I'm sure the video is floating around on the internet, the all-star lineup introductions for 1987, like the first 5 guys, it's like Davey Johnson, and then the first 5 guys are Mets from the New York Mets. From the New York Mets. It was very comical.
It was a very late 90s Yankee type lineup,
Yes.
right? Like when all the Yankees were in, like you knew the whole all-star team was going to be the entire Yankee lineup.
Tino and Bernie and Paul O'Neill, and Jeter, everyone. Yep. That was in 1987. Look it up. And it's funny, you mentioned All-Star Week, to see where we've gone with that, because you've gone from basic lineup introductions to Pat McAfee saying with Cal Raleigh, he's got the fattest ass in baseball. Like, what's the world coming to? Pat McAfee is everything.
Yeah, I don't need Pat McAfee everywhere.
He's invaded wrestling, one of our other passions right there.
Well, speaking of wrestling, I have to promote this event by Keith Blacknick, the media goon who does the Queens Baseball Convention. I've been to a couple of those and been a couple part of panels. But this weekend, if you're unable to go to the David Wright game and you want to go out for a cool event, the stars of TNA Wrestling are uniting on the softball field for the inaugural TNA Slamming Softball Classic, challenging the coaching staff of the Merrick Belmore Little League in New York. The 7-inning game to benefit the Merrick Belmore Little League will be held this Saturday at Calhoun High School in Merrick, New York. First pitch is scheduled at 5 p.m. You got Frankie Kazarian going to be there, Brian Myers. They've been named the TNA coaches of the game, which will include appearances by a majority of the TNA roster. The night before Slammiversary, which is on the Sunday in the UBS Arena in Elmont, New York. Some of the roster included Matt and Jeff Hardy. You know those guys, Fensty. Steve Macklin, Leon Slater, Santino Marella, who also there, Eddie Edwards, Nick Nemeth, AJ Francis, Mustafa Ali, Zachary Wentz. There's just so many names that are going to be there. The TNA World Champion, Trick Williams, is going to be there. Tessa Blanchard is going to be there. So many names. Admission to the softball game is only $20, and all proceeds will be donated to the Merrick Belmore Little League. Also refreshments. So if you're hungry, you can get a couple of snacks. You can bring long chairs for seating because the seating is limited. And then after the game, there's going to be a meet and greet with the wrestlers. So you can check that out there. If you're a fan of wrestling, if you want to see some baseball, if you're unable to see David Wright, I unfortunately am not going to be able to make it because I will be at Citi Fields for the David Wright game.
I wanted to go so badly, but
Fensty, I could have saw you, man.
I know, man. I you know what? I was planning on when I started hearing about this, I was planning on it, but we're having a new edition coming in the next few weeks. So we're on high alert right now. So unfortunately, I won't make it there. But I was going to ask you, and you might not know the answer to this question, that if I paid instead of $20 for the TNA meet and greet event, if I spent $50, can I get a swanton bomb from Jeff Hardy?
You throw a little 50 on the side, right? You just...
What would you rather get? You had to take one of these bumps. Would you take a Matt Hardy twist of fate or a Jeff Hardy swanton bomb?
I think the twist of fate.
Wow, I'm going swanton bomb because I'm afraid of like me moving my neck the wrong way and then him because I mess up on the bump with the way I'm positioned, injuring my neck.
What if Jeff Hardy messes up and misses and hits you in the head?
That is true right there. No, he'll be 100% focused. What are you talking about?
Oh, Fensty, it's been so good chatting with you again and doing this. We'll do more during the seasons. I know a lot of people love the team up, so we're gonna have to do a lot more of these.
Absolutely, man. It's always great being with you and just seeing you build up Subway to Shea. And like I tell you, just the title alone brings me back to some of the happiest moments of my life, because I'm sure a lot of you out there can relate. And a lot of people that aren't Mets fans will always say that Shea Stadium was a dump. It was our freaking dump. Okay.
Oh, yeah.
And we loved it. I loved being at Shea Stadium. I love the boardwalk leading up to Shea Stadium. Dude, I do love Citi Field. I almost said a bad word. I do love Citi Field, but at the same time, it was nothing. The authenticity doesn't even come close to what Shea Stadium was.
You took the words right out of my mouth, man.
Yeah.
Citi Field is our dump.
Thank you for having me, man. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. What do you got coming up? What are you working on?
Right now, just getting some football ready. You can find my work at fantasyguru.com. I'm also creeping around SiriusXM, helping out on various channels there. And you can catch me every single Wednesday on YouTube on the Elite Plus network, talking a lot of football, getting all you fantasy football players ready for your leagues, and sprinkling in a little bit of baseball too, but it's very football focused right now, Anthony. That's every single Wednesday, noon Eastern on YouTube.
That's a big time for the NFL getting ready to go. We're very close to camps starting.
Oh yeah, big time, man. It's wild because it's now the split. I get my baseball time, but now the split happens again where there's all this football. But with the Mets, man, we're in business again. It's great seeing the Mets be good again. And after what happened last year, seeing what they've done this year, despite them struggling, It's awesome, man. It just gets you so pumped up.
Well, thank you, Fensty, again for being a part of this show. And thank you for all the listeners, all the people in the chat for tuning in. I know I didn't get to every comment, but I did see them and I do appreciate them. Keep coming into the show. Keep chatting. Even chat with each other. I see a lot of chatting with each other. Keep doing that as well. It's a lot of fun just being in this room with every single one of you. For Anthony Rivera, for Justin Fensty Fensterman, you've been listening to, well, if you are listening, because you'll be on Apple Podcasts and Spotify, make sure you subscribe there, as well as following me on X, Instagram, and TikTok at Subway to Shea. You can follow Fensty at Fensty Sports on X. For Anthony Rivera, for Justin Fensterman, you've been watching the Subway to Shea podcast. Always remember, let's go Mets.